It's it's 5:43. And so we're going to start this capital budget presentation. This is a it's a public hearing, which means we, technically should have started at 5:30, but given technical difficulties, we are now starting. And what this is a review of the capital budget for fiscal year 24. And it is to give anybody who has an interest in learning about what is going to be on the capital budget to have comments of what we are proposing and any adjustments that they may have. And I'll just go through it quickly take your we'll take your comments at the end of each segment. So we'll start with buildings and property. We've been running $10,000 a year for the Jericho Library because it needs a lot of maintenance. But on the other thing, in the future, I would expect you will see changes in that $10,000 because they're looking to fuel switch. And the state has a new state grant program for municipal resilience, which will not be available for another 12 to 18 months, but it's going to help municipal buildings be able to switch from bad fuels to better fuels and make themselves more energy efficient. The key is Chittenden County is unfortunately listed as having a lot of resources, even though there are a lot of little quirks within the county itself that may end up be able to fund it. Because right now the state is actually just looking at focusing on municipalities with low resources and high costs, which makes a lot of sense because they don't have the resources. But there are community sections within Chittenden County that could qualify, including those that are historic buildings. So watch this space. The highway garage improvements is $3,150. The building is getting quite old, outdated. It needs and this is above and beyond the normal repairs. This is doing some major work there. But just again, watch this space because we'll essentially have to consider this construction of a new building down the road because this is so outdated and doesn't hold the equipment that it should.
Within 10 years.
Yeah, within years. 10 years anyway. But right now we're putting $31,500 into the highway garage. Land improvements has been typically mob land improvements, and what we have done is take it from that particular space and move it over to the mobs farms line in the regular budget.
You mean from the reserve fund? That's what you're referring
to?
No,
no, it actually took it to the budget because that's their $5. That's to use.
Okay. All right.
Are there any questions on the buildings and property?
I think I heard a question coming in from,
I think they were just unmuted.
oh, okay. Nope.
Nope.
I thought it was Erik or the Moms Committee treasurer. It is not.
So anyway, highways, the focus is going to be on Skunk Hollow. And we're going to just designate the $295,000 in our budget.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now? Hey, sorry, this is George Benham from the MOPS Committee. I just wanted to say I'm here in case there's any questions around that.
Well, you'll get a chance again because it'll be talked about in the budget.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
But basically, our goal is to pave Skunk Hollow between the fiscal year 23 and 24. Not because we are also ahead of the curve in terms of our municipal general road permit and the hydrologically connected road segments of gravel roads. We don't have any gravel road work other than the usual gravel road work scheduled for 24. There's nothing in bridges and culverts because we expect to see expenses in fiscal year 25. As it's anticipated, the preliminary work to prepare for bridge replacement will begin. It's a V-Trans project with the town match of 5%. So we're anticipating work in the future. It's on the STIP for the state. Heavy equipment, we have bought trucks and various equipments over the past few years, and that we have pre-ordered a truck. And it's not going, because of the way trucks are being back ordered right now, it will not show up until the following years, as there's a long lag time for delay. Sidewalks, we have nothing budgeted because we put the entire grant for Riverside in fiscal year 23, and it will be spent over the years as work has begun on the Riverside sidewalk. Fact is, we have signed the Regional Planning Commission signed the go-ahead on that just recently. So. And we continue to look for funding for that last segment of the MMU path, which needs the crossing bridge over the Lee River, making it the most expensive segment. But we keep looking to try to get grants to finish that pathway so that there's a full multimodal path or sidewalk between Jericho Center and MMU. And that brings us to the total project cost of $336,500. And it's all going to be out of the operating budget. Any questions? Any comments? Wow. Okay.
Well, as somebody sitting in the audience, too, the things that would have struck me would have been your comments, Madam Chair. Skunk Hollow will be paved in the upcoming budget period, and the Riverside sidewalk. Those are pieces of construction that Jericho residents will actually see and be able to point to, in addition to other items on this list. But those are two big,
Yeah.
obvious ones that'll stand out.
Yeah, the paving will stay down. The work on the Riverside sidewalk. It's all that preliminary work where they have, they're enhancing the scoping study that we did on the sidewalk. And that's why it takes 3 to 5 years to actually see a sidewalk on the ground. Because then after the preliminary, then you go to scope, then you go to right away acquisition. But I mean, it is interesting this year. All we're using is operating funds for capital projects. So, anybody else want to make comments on the board? It is, because it's a real reasonable budget. I mean, it's one of the smaller ones we've done because there's no major grants in it. So what, if there's no questions or comments, I hate to do this to people because we close the public hearing.
Come back at 6:30.
And they come back at 6:30 because that's really what's done. So do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
That's what public hearings are for.
That was short and sweet.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
then come back at 6:30 because
See you
that's
all at 6:30. Don't miss it.
Gonna be wild. At 6:30.
All right, bye.
Our meeting
A
with
regular
the
meeting.
budget will be.
and we're going to review the full fiscal year 24 budget.
This is the capital plan. We will do the
What you're looking at.
budget.
That's why in the planning board we were talking about.
Oh,
I think at every opportunity, Brian identified a couple weeks ago when this is all premature, I'm going to say it anyway. I don't care. I only have 2 years left. Brian reminded us of when we will have paid off the town hall, and that provides a target for if highway department work is needed, it would happen sort of at the end of that period. So it might behoove us, once we get this little assessment done, to just start reminding people that, we're now looking at a 10-year window of doing something, just to say something out loud to people so that 3 years from now, won't be, you never mentioned this before, so I think at town meeting,
That's why I do it every time.
Yeah, we just always, hey, don't forget, this is coming down the pike, you know, we don't know what's coming down the pike yet, but we know something's gonna have to be done.
And it's not going to be inexpensive.
Yeah.
Because like Milton, they bonded for $3 million for their new garage. Of course,
Wow.
but they're a bigger town too, but.
Hey,
Mhm.
Eric, did you get my message about trying to share the budget? I sent you an email.
I did not. I have had a
Well, screen share.
busy afternoon.
Yeah, I just sent it to you, Eric, because I'm on Amy's laptop and I can't access the shared drive from hers.
Paula,
I have, I can share it. That's fine. You mean
Okay.
during the regularly scheduled meeting?
Yeah, when we start discussing the budget, if you can just share that one that I sent you.
Yep,
screen share.
Sure can. No problem.
Thank you.
We're gonna call this, January 19th, meeting of the select board in session at 6:32. And as always, we start with public to be heard, and this is for anything that is not on the agenda. And
I'd like to make a comment about,
would you please state your name for the record, even though we know it?
name is Omar Saeed, I live in Starboard Development. Can you hear me or should I move there?
Can you hear him, Aaron?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, can you hear, Omar?
Yes,
Good.
we can hear.
Okay.
You're good, Omar.
So all I wanted to say is that I live in the development, Starboard Development. And I use Packard Road pretty regularly. And I've seen how much usage it has, as well as the damage through the weather and rain and snow. But the town, what do you call it? Road crew, they seem to do a wonderful job of keeping it going and leveled and do all the right things to it. I've seen a lot of damage and I've seen them bring their equipment and fix it. There's been washout and they filled it up with stone and leveled it out. So I just wanted to tell you that it's highly appreciated. The people I've talked to, they all made that comment that the road crew do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Are there any other comments from public to be heard? Okay, don't see anything. So, moving on, are there any changes to the agenda? Because this is the time to do changes to the agenda. If there are-
So did you see the suggested amendment that I emailed?
It's in the email, but you have, you're able to access it, Eric, aren't you?
So Eric, I sent a suggested amendment whereby the other two select board meetings would confirm you as representative for any future, present and future transactions that involve real estate or acquisition property.
So what we can do, since it is a change to the agenda, we can move it to after the budget presentation, which is the biggie for the night then.
Great.
Okay, but this is the time that you need to notice that you're going to have changes to the agenda.
Great.
The first thing on the agenda itself is the review and consider approval of our certificate of highway mileage. It doesn't seem to have changed from the prior years. The only thing I want to have, noted is in the future, we might have, we should consider reclassifying the road that goes to the Beaver Pond because it's still considered a travelable road and it's not, obviously.
Okay.
What is it, Wilder Road, I believe? And because somebody was saying lots of GPS is still listed there and people started to drive it, but then they hit the pond. So we We should reclassify it anyway. Because it hasn't been drivable according to V-Trans since the eighties. It hasn't met specs for the road.
Oh, interesting.
Classification it should since the eighties.
And from the other end, it just peters out and you're kind of in somebody's yard. So on the
Yeah.
other side of the beaver dam,
Yeah.
I was just up there.
Yeah, I just, we have to think about it in the future. We can't do anything about it now, but I was looking at, reading the form and it says, oh, reclassified or remeasured. We probably ought to think about that.
Okay, and it'll affect the, obviously the total mileage slightly.
Slightly, very slightly next year, but I mean, since people. GPSs still make them go that way. Sometimes I don't think that. Particularly people who want packages. And they're
I
looking
did
for.
find that car down there.
Yeah.
And this is a bird walk, but you remember a couple minutes ago. There was a car there and there was a woman asleep in it or something.
Oh, that's
remember?
right, yes,
Set over for signature.
yeah, that's exactly right.
Anyway,
So anyway, we need a motion to approve the certificate of highway mileage, which is a total of 68.68 miles.
so moved.
I second.
All those in favor say aye,
I
and then there'll be signatures later.
Do we all sign this, John?
Yeah, it requires, all the
Signatures.
board signatures. I believe either mine or the clerk's.
The next thing on the agenda is review and consider approval of the first class liquor license for the Grateful Ventures. I think that's cute, Grateful Ventures LLP. So these are the new owners of the Sinclair Inn.
Correct.
Yeah, they had an open fire this last Friday. I think it was on Front Porch Forum and I thought of stopping by and then I didn't, but they were gonna do like Friday night, stop by
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
neighbors kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat, the idea of an open fire outside, to get people to meet them. But we have to approve their application because it's the first time application for them to the state. To actually have a liquor license there it's actually a first class hotel license is what they're looking at.
Right. I move that we approve the first class hotel license for Grateful Ventures at 389 Vermont 15, Jericho.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's great.
One second, I just noticed on this highway mileage, there's something called a legal trail.
Yeah.
If you have a legal trail, can you get state money
I don't know. Because
I've never
typically
seen
you don't
that
get much money for
for class 4?
class 4. Because,
That's interesting.
yeah, I thought it was interesting too, but I think the mileage is they only give money for highways.
Yeah.
But on Richmond's side, when it was Snipe, Ireland, they made that a legal trail up there. And we've kept it as a class 4 road that we really don't take care of and nobody
Wait.
possible.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, Catherine. I was looking at the asterisk at the bottom. It
Uh-huh.
says mileage for the class 1, class 4 and legal trail classifications are not included in total.
So in other words, you can put the number down, but it's not going to change.
Yeah, I don't think it qualifies you for funding through these programs.
Yeah. But we left the
Okay.
Snipe Island in the class 4 because some people needed a certain excess at the beginning of it, and then we put the bar across because that way you don't have to give up the land.
Right.
Okay, you've been waiting so patiently, Carol.
Do you want me to come to the?
No,
John, I can't seem to admit people, but there are 2 people in the waiting.
Oh, there are.
I don't know why I'm not able to do it.
You want me to wait, Eric? While you do? Okay.
No, just state your name for the record.
Yep, my name is Carol Gross. And I'm vice chair for the Jericho Republican Party. And we sent you a letter. I didn't bring a copy of the letter, but
We did get the
you
letter.
did- You got the
Yes,
letter, and in a
yes.
nutshell, it
It's
asks.
just taken us a while to get here.
Sorry. It asks for approval for 3 members of the Republican Party who were on the ballot. because we had 12 Democrats that were elected. And so there's no representation for the other party. And so we would like approval to serve on the Board of Civil Authority. And the reason for that is for oversight. So there's partnership there. This is what happened last year, except Mary Coburn was elected.
Yeah.
And so we asked for 2 reps. Well, this year, nobody was. So, we picked the 3, well, actually 2 of the top vote getters, and then the 3rd person actually doesn't live in Jericho anymore.
Oh,
And so we went to the next person. So the names are Carol Gross, David Schuler, and Mary Coburn. And so we ask for your approval to serve on the Board of Civil Authority.
and the Board of Civil Authority can accommodate 15 members, so it's.
Yeah.
That was the one question I had.
Yes, we're up to 3.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
And we partner during elections and count ballots and
Sure.
partner with Democrats, so that there's both parties, and
And that's where they need all the hands they can get.
that's right. That's right. So,
And David
That's
was
in a
at, oh, by the way, David was at the town planning rollout meeting the other night.
Yeah.
So he's, he's got his finger in a little.
he
That's
he
good.
does, these are all, yeah. So do you have any questions for me about this?
No, you served admirably. I mean, you've been there and.
Okay.
Yeah, my only question, and it did look like Jessica checked out as Paul did, I suppose. That it was legal and proper, and
Oh, yeah.
of course, we expected that it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But the one nagging one was, okay, well, if you're are you allowed to have 12? And now that we're gonna have 3 more, we have to figure out but it sounds like we can have 15.
We
You
had 15.
can. you
So
can-
that makes the whole
yes.
thing easy.
Yes, yeah, and then it makes it easier for Jessica to have dual party oversight.
Otherwise, last time, if we hadn't appointed last time, Mary would have been doing all the work for the Republican
That's
side.
right,
And that's a lot to put on one person.
that is a lot.
So our job then is just to appoint Mary Coburn, Carol Gross, and David Schuler to the BCA to serve for election duties only.
Oh, is it? Okay, I didn't catch that part. So I was gonna ask a question about. Those are the 3 people I would pick. I think it's a great thing. It just feels weird being an elected official and going in and specifically saying the 3 you didn't pick, we're gonna go ahead and do it anyway. It's a very uncomfortable spot, and I know all 3 of these people, and it's certainly nothing personal. It's just.
Well, we're-
I was elected too, and.
Yes.
The voters spoke, and we're gonna go,
well,
no.
we have our rights and our tasks and our responsibilities are restricted.
Okay, so it
And
is
that
just
the
for the
only
election.
thing that the only part of this whole operation is what goes on for elections. So yes, we are able to vote on those issues only.
Okay.
And serve to help with elections. We're not allowed to, we don't have the full voting rights that an elected official would have.
Okay.
It's just for that one section.
Okay, so with that clarification, that makes me feel much more comfortable about it, because we absolutely do want oversight and.
And if you want to,
Partnership.
and if you want to, put that in, to make it even more clear in the motion. You go per statute 17, paragraph 2143, political representation on the Board of Civil Authority. The select board appoints Mary, Carol, David to the BCA to serve for election duties only.
Okay, so given that, per statute 17 of the, sorry. Per statute 17, the action seeks to provide representation of the minority party on the Jericho Board of Civil Authority. Based on that statute, I make a motion to nominate Mary Coburn, Carol Gross, and David Schuler to the Jericho BCA.
To serve for election duties only.
Thank you, to serve for election duties only.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you for serving.
I'm glad you didn't propose George Santos.
Yeah.
That's kind of an odd color joke that we're going.
We'll just move right along.
Next, on the agenda is the budget presentation for FY 24. This is the opportunity for, we've been working on it. You've seen parts of it along the way. And what the idea is at this point to go through the entire budget pre-town meeting so that people can make any comments or questions before it goes to the printers. I will start the first section, and I will say that
Madam Chair, I just wanted to just interject for the public that there will be another information meeting in a little bit more than a month from now on February 23rd.
oh, that's right,
At that point, the budget will have been
fixed.
cast in amber. No, that's not a good metaphor. Anyway, it'll be
Cast in
set by
stone?
then, cast in stone.
Otherwise, what is it?
So people will have another chance to learn about it.
Yeah. They can learn about it, but this is their opportunity to, if they feel like if they have a sense that they really want to change something,
Yes,
this is their opportunity to make changes.
right. Excuse me for
So,
interrupting.
so I'm sharing the Excel version. So I will do my best to follow along between both of these, but that should be in the same order as these, so we should be good.
Yeah, and the staff of the select board has worked with multiple workshops that were warned as well to keep it as minimal economic impact as we can, because inflation and all the other impacts of the economy currently impacts the town just as it unfortunately impacts our taxpayers. So we work very hard to reflect this reality, but keep the tax rate as low as it could, we could go. And of course, that is the number itself will change once the grand list is set in April anyway. This is the anticipated percent change. It's not really the tax rate. I should have said that. It's just the percent change. But we will, our idea is to ask for $2,913,030 of property tax general revenue. Penalties, interest are not expected to change from fiscal year budget 23. The intergovernmental, the only difference is the state aid for roads is going to go up slightly, so we'll get an additional 20,000 there. And we're hoping to get a municipal road grant and aid of 24,000 for fiscal year 24. Give it. And then licenses and fines, there's very little change. Jessica is going to do some more commuterization and restoration of work, and so we're going to use some full money from that reserve fund for an additional $3,000. So we have total penalties and interest of 37,000, the total intergovernmental of 282,100, total licenses and fines of 131,850. Under miscellaneous, Comcast lease is long gone. There isn't much interest on checking. We are now, instead of the Comcast lease, we are getting $12,000 a year from our little solar field on the old dump site. And the rest hasn't changed. So total miscellaneous is $18,500 for total revenue of $3,382,480. And then Wayne will start how we're going to spend that money.
Right, so that's the end of the revenue section. So down on line 100, that's where we're starting. And you'll just see a couple of changes there. I'm not going to go through every single line. If you're out there watching this on cable, all three of you. You see under the treasurers, there's been a slight adjustment for salaries and benefits. They fluctuate a little bit, and of course, benefits went up just a bit. Down in the administrator and select board section, you can see that if you look on line 107, you'll see there's a change in benefits. Some totals expected to be spent for benefits. Some of that has to do with, there's a number of people that are represented in that salary and benefit line. So there's a slightly small tweak there. Legal expenses, you will see on line 109 that the total expenses to this department have gone down by half, but you'll see in another section of the budget where some of those costs are anticipated in planning and zoning. And then the last really big thing in this administrator and select board section is the office equipment and computers. The select board's been presented with information that it's really time to upgrade our computers, that the life cycle is past, and that number represents in part purchasing updated computers. Go down to the town clerk, and you'll see that there's some change, very little change in the salaries, but you'll see the benefits. There has been a little change in personnel within that section of town government, and you'll see that that's reflected on line 124, 123. Then moving along to, you'll see under the listers, the word listing reads a little odd,
Yeah.
but you'll see there that there's really nothing changed. It's worth noting on line 132 that since COVID, travel expenses have been, everybody's travel pattern has changed, and that number is lower than the actual of just a little short time ago. Health officer, there's nothing much to report in that. And then in planning and zoning, if you recall, everybody in Jericho, we did have a new town planner that we were lucky to find. Her skills are great. And you'll see there's been some small adjustments to salaries, and planning and zoning is 2 people. So those numbers represent a couple staff members. You see the benefits on line 140 changed quite a bit. And I think that's all I have.
Do the, mention the legal there.
Oh, and then the legal, oh, that's right. My gosh, that was the thing I really wanted to mention. On line 141, you'll see the legal expenses. And if you look way over, we are bumping that up to 20,000. We budgeted for much less than that. And as you read to the left, you'll see there's a erratic history, but we're trying to code the expenses to where they were generated from. So that's a bit of a bump. But as I just want to remind everybody, that's in part why the legal expenses on line 109 went down so substantially. Plus, we're in different legal circumstances for the upcoming budget. So that's all I know.
109 went down 12, and this one went up
14.
14. So it's
That's a wash.
flattish.
So that's it for up to line 145.
And I typically do highway and bridges. Oh, Omar?
Yeah, I have a question. I noticed there's nothing for reappraisal.
Pardon?
Nothing for reappraisal.
Uh,
We are squirreling money away for.
we're scrolling, there is money, you'll see in another fund, that money, under revenue, one of the revenue, funds is state grand list assistance for $17,800. That's line 13.
Oh.
That is money that will go into its reserve fund, because they anticipate having to do a reappraisal probably within the next 3 years or so. Because there are, was it coefficient of dispersion and the value of homes versus the market, are 2 different things that the state looks at before they make you do a reappraisal. And we're still okay. So we're hoping to put the money aside until we could actually afford a full reappraisal.
The prices of the properties have shot up.
Yeah, they have, and because that would impact a lot of people who live in the smaller homes. We're hoping that there's a slow decline, but by the time they do a reappraisal, so that they don't expect that it will go down to what it was, but they're hoping that if we wait until we actually have to, then it won't be so draconian, actually.
They're stabilized.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
that's our hope.
Thank you.
We did get that recent email that said, it seems pretty self-evident
Yeah.
that the number of appraisers is going down
Yes,
rapidly, and everybody is going to be wanting to get their appraisal done at the same time. So this may take a little longer
Yep.
than we're hoping it will.
that's right. I mean, that's the real problem too. I mean, the state is losing its listers because they're retiring out, and the state is also losing certified appraisers. They're the same. People don't want to do that anymore.
I got it.
I do highway, I'm gonna do highway and bridges because just out of history, I got to do the very first capital budget that we presented, and because most of the capital budget is in highway and bridges, I've also do the highway and bridges expenses.
Become a specialist.
I have become a specialist. As you can see, the salary line, for highways and bridges, line 146, has when you combine them together, it jumps from 363 fiscal year 2023 to 413,782. Which is a fairly substantial jump. And that's because we needed to increase the salaries because the competition for CDL drivers is fierce, absolutely fierce. And there just simply are not enough CDL drivers and not enough people willing to become, even if they are a CDL driver, and they're not necessarily wanting to be on a road crew, to be called out in the middle of the night for a snowstorm or ice storms or, miss birthday parties or Christmas and stuff, and they can get a job and, have hours. So we've had to become much more competitive, and that's why you'll see that 13%, almost 14% jump in salaries and overtime. Benefits, fortunately, because of the shifting of the population of our CDL drivers on the road crew, the benefits did not go up that much. The other parts of the highway and bridges, it's pretty much the same. The only difference is building maintenance repairs. We've added another 15,000, going from 10,000. That's line 153. And we've gone from 10,000 in fiscal year 23 to 25,000 in 24. And that's because not only were there our capital needs to support the building, but they're also just basic repairs and maintenance of that building itself. You'll see a professional consultant that first started in 23 and continues in 24, where we have a on-call engineer to help the road crew. And then the biggest change on the next page for the road, things are, there's small changes, but the big change is from on hired equipment. It costs more to hire people as well. Just like it's costing more to keep people here, it costs more to hire them. So we've gone from fiscal year 23 of 25,000 to 31,000 for 24. And the hired equipment is for like the mowing and the sidewalks and, plowing and all those different kinds of things. You also see some significant jumps in summer road gravel stone, going from 50,000 to 10,000. Winter sand, 60 to 64,000. Salt's a biggie change, 110 to. But if you look at how much over the years, the cost of salt has gone up. So those were significant changes in the expenses for the roads. Bridge improvement, we're not putting up. Diesel fuel, of course, has gone up a bit. The rest of the highway department is not changed much. Their tree brush maintenance, we're gonna put money into there from 25,000 to 30,000, and that's line 170. Because we need, based on what the storms have done, we need to keep cleaning up more stuff alongside the roads to make sure the roads stay safe. So the highway budget has gone from fiscal year 23, 1,429,276 to 1,552,517, which is a dollar change of 123,000, which is unfortunately, but we have to adjust the budget accordingly to, meet the needs of the roads and the highway crew itself.
And to reflect what we expect, right? That's the whole point.
And that's, yeah, exactly. And now Wade gets summer rec.
Yeah, just briefly, summer rec, that salary number line set 174 represents dozens of people for a very short time. Most of them don't get very much money, but they get a little bit of money. So the salary line includes not only Lynn Wagner, who's led this program for many, many years, but also her assistants, and then the assistants to the assistants, who tend to be middle school kids and that kind of thing. So that's what that salary line is. That salary line is not for just the summer rec director. And then you see beyond that, there aren't a whole lot of changes. It's almost the same amount. You'll notice on line 173, everybody, if you're following along, the fees, this was a brilliant idea by our treasurer with the select board to just show we have money coming in and money coming out. And so the fees, 173, represents the money coming in from parents who are sending their kids to this program. And then detailed under that are the expenses. And then on net summer rec program, that highlighted bolded line, that is the actual cost to Jericho taxpayers to keep our contribution to keep the summer rec program. And you can see it's actually quite modest for the number of kids that we serve. And for this proposed budget, it would be just under $35,000 a year.
So for those following along at home, what he was saying is this 34,550 right here in bold is the net of this number minus this number.
Yes, exactly.
How many kids are there?
I don't know about the last one.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids and the parents, we know that the parents love the program. And it's also a way, because there are two sets of fees. There's fees for Jericho kids and there's fees for out of town kids, and the out of town kids pay more. And this is a way of helping to keep it affordable. Our contribution to the program of the 35,000 or whatever it may be on each year is our contribution to help keep that cost to Jericho residents lower.
So we don't have, I don't have in front of me the Lynn's report for this that's going to be included in the town report, but the last one was 264 campers.
Oh, that's pretty good then. Good value of money.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for summer rec.
Okay, so I'm gonna take over this section. Insurance is not a lot of change there. $200 difference in budget, so we'll skip over that one.
That's pretty amazing, actually.
It's kind of amazing. So the next, I do want to draw people's attention to line 187. We talked about this last year. Last year we had a pretty large increase for the fees requested by the Essex Rescue. Last year it went from 15,600 a year to 46,000. And they are asking for another increase of 30,000 on top. So it comes to a total of 77,000. So I just want to make people aware that we have had a lot of select board discussions about this. We do really appreciate Essex Rescue for what they do. They're a great service. It is a great service, but it's troubling, especially as we're trying to approve a budget, as we're trying to prepare a budget, to go from, $15,600 in 22 to $77,310 in 24. Obviously, that's not sustainable growth. So, we have covered that at other select board meetings, and it is on our radar. And we really just want to partner with that group, and just help, if nothing else, with the transparency in their budgeting process, so that it's not, obviously, we can't continue to have these types of jumps. We know we need rescue service, but I will pause there just because that is one of our more significant ones, just to see if people did have questions on that.
Nothing in the chat. Anyone with hands up?
Okay.
And let me just go to the gallery for so I can see.
And then Richmond did go down a little bit. I guess
Oh, I see a hand. Is that a hand?
Yeah.
Oh, that was Bernie.
Is it Bernie?
Bernie, do you have the
Bernie's got his hand up.
question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, yes, I did, but it was, if you don't mind me backing up a little bit, is that all right? It was about the salt
Sure.
budget.
Oh, look. Oh, gosh, we haven't had a salt budget discussion in years.
Now this feels normal. Go ahead, Bernie.
It was just a request of, is it possible to, there may not be a place on the budget line to put comments on the side or notations or whatever, but I know that each department has some text in the annual budget. Would they be able to, or could I at least ask them to consider if they're able to put a notation in there quantifying the projected salt poundage that equates to those dollars?
How much salt that money buys?
Right.
We
And that's,
can't put it in the
I-
form, but I could tell you the per tonnage cost, from year to year. We do have that.
that'd be great. I
Is it-
just think year to year, if we could see that somewhere in text, even if it's in the, the part of the budget report that has the text about, there's the highway department says, here's how it went for us this year kind of thing. If it's in there, that's fine. Just somewhere along there, because when we look just at the dollars, it's sort of a little bit more difficult to relate to. What's more concerning is how much salt are we actually using? We understand that the price goes up. So again, yeah, if we put it per pound or whatever, as long as we could equate to back from the dollars to poundage, we get a better idea of year to year how much salt we're using. And obviously I do recognize that weather impacts it, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Remember he told us 1 or 2 years ago, I was flabbergasted. Some of the salt was coming from Egypt.
Yeah. And we.
Really?
I think we buy through the state buying program.
I was just like,
Cool.
you're sending salt via a ship across the ocean it's just
Holy smokes.
crazy.
Crazy. But, the state gets the best price.
Yeah.
A good price. And I
Get a
think
good
that-
price on it, yes.
But it's unusual. And the sad thing, I know Bernie's concerned about the environment and stuff, and we used to have that salt discussion because of that, but as our weather shifts and we get more and more icing, that unfortunately, we may see salt go up.
Yeah.
Use go up because we need,
ice is the main driver,
ice is the main driver, exactly.
Eric, you were still on?
So anyway, back to public health and safety. So with that, we went from $199,858 last year to $231,310 this year, $31,000 increase there. Building and property maintenance, nothing really all that exciting there. They're all pretty close. We went from, went up $3,500 total.
Susan Brissy has her hand up.
Oh, hi, Susan.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much. Not to go backwards, but Bernie did it, so I thought I could. I was just asking what were about Essex Rescue, since you spent other meetings on that jump. What were the main drivers of the jump? Is it personnel and salaries? Is it that Jericho is suddenly using a lot more of the
No, this is a jump for all the towns that Essex Rescue serves.
Right, so we pay them, so Susan, we pay them based on the number of people that they cover, and they cover around 75% of the town. I don't remember the exact number. And so we pay them per capita, and every town pays the exact same price. So Westford, Underhill, Essex, Jericho,
Essex City and Essex Town.
and the two, both Essexes. And so that increase was across the board for all of them. And they're, they cited a lot of reasons. The biggest one is volunteers. They're having to replace a lot of their volunteer staff with staff, and they're competing against the hospital, who is also having to increase their pay. So that was, I don't remember all the details, but that was certainly one of the biggest ones.
And in contrast to that, Richmond Rescue still has a
Good.
robust volunteer force to tap into, and
Right.
Essex is moving slowly towards more professionalizing services, I guess.
I think that's the way to characterize it.
And they have a lot of things on there too, Susan, if they get called out and they don't end up transporting anybody, they can't bill for it. Maybe don't quote me on that exact scenario, but there were several of these scenarios where they would get called, they would incur the expense. They can't bill for it. They can't
Right.
recoup that money.
Reimbursed
Right.
a rate lower than their cost.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
It's worth noting, and probably everybody here knows this already, but on line 190, the police services, some of that expense is offset by the revenue that you would find on line 16. It's a pretty modest amount of money, but there is some offset of the expense for police services.
Should I go past it?
You go building and property maintenance.
Okay. So yeah, this one hadn't changed much, total of $3,500 for this whole section. So since there's not a lot of changes there, I'm just gonna skip down. Jericho conservation and public use. Here, I wanted to call, so Jericho Conservation Commission went from 1,000 last year, which we had mostly done last year because of the actuals that had been there. This year in the discussion, we do expect some expense here, so we budgeted 3,000 there. We also wanted to call out Mobs Farm land improvements. That has its own line item now, and it was sort of combined, or at least was confused with some of these land improvements. And I guess I don't remember why this went up so much between the two.
Because they had the two lines and we put over in the past, because they also have bridges and stuff to replace this year.
Oh, right. Yes, there's some bridges that are reaching end of life. So yeah, so if you combine the two lines, it went from 8,200 to 13,200. So that whole section goes up about $7,000. Jericho Center, Town Center Library, salaries and benefits went up a little bit there. General expenses stayed about the same, so we're projecting that to be $99,000. And I'm still going.
Yep, still get going.
Still going. Okay.
You get to go all the way through total appropriate, your final end is the total appropriations.
Okay. Mandated. Chittenden County tax. Pretty standard there. CCRPC. Jericho Underhill Park District. Vermont League is TLCT. So not a lot of increase there, $6,000 for this section. Non-mandated. We have $1,000 more for age well. I guess I don't remember talking about this much in our budget sessions. Do we know why that was pretty constant at 4 and then went to 5 here?
They would have made a request, otherwise it would still be a 4.
Right.
That's my assumption.
Okay,
They're aging well.
all right. I suppose our population is aging, so it's probably not.
Well, it's
any
since they do
surprise.
Meals and Wheels and stuff, I would imagine it's the cost of fuel, I mean, that they're volunteers, because sometimes they pay for the gas or something like, or whatever it is. I mean, because the cost of the food that they do for Meals on Wheels,
Oh, yeah. Food costs went up too. Yeah, that's true. Browns River Little League, childcare resources, non-mandated. Only went up $5,000. I don't see anything particularly too exciting to call out here, but happy to pause if anyone had a. Susan, is your hand still up or is it up again? It's down. So anyway, so $5,000 difference there. Total appropriations difference of went from 179, 325 to 191, 064, about $11,000.
and now this is the second year that you will see this net cash outlay for equipment or improvements. And this is a way of presenting the budget with the debt separated out to be more transparent of what the actual cost of these things, and then the and it includes then more than just the town hall bond, and then the interest is separated out as well. And so you can see that this year, because of the cost of equipment, we didn't buy any, we are not buying anything for fiscal year 2024, but if you would see the purchase cost of the equipment and what then the loan proceeds to purchase that equipment. And so you have an asset and a debit at the same time. And then this time we do not have any capital improvements that we are anticipating actual construction this year of anything. So there again, there's no real cash outlay for those kinds of improvements. However, we do have the interest on the debt now pulled out, and it's $16,924 to recognize the cost of one of the pieces of equipment that we bought in prior years. And our principal payments then, and this is where Wayne was talking about what debt looks like over time and how we can stabilize it to use it in different ways, is that the principal payment then is $156,320 budgeted for FY24 for a total debt service of $173,244. We anticipate using $50,000 of road impact fees for highway work this year, and that's the only change out of transfers from reserves. Transfers to reserves, we have this goes to what Omar is looking at. If you look at line 59, sorry, you'll see that we're budgeting for fiscal year 24, $35,000 to go into the reappraisal fund.
Which line?
It's line 259, reappraisal fund.
Oh. Thank you.
And other than that, so the only transfers to the reserve funds for projected for fiscal year 24 is 35,000. So between taking 50,000 out of reserves and putting 35 in other reserves, it's a difference of $15,000 for a total expenditure of $3,382,480. And because we've also shifted how some things are presented, we now have other collections and remittances, and some of this will be showing up on so that we have the Underhill Jericho Fire Department. We had a joint meeting on the 12th with Underhill to approve the budget for the fire department. They have also seen huge increases in expenses. And our share of their budget for fiscal year 24 will be $520,682. And the Deborah Rawson Library, you could change the budget if you might hurry, because they're at 7 o'clock tonight at the Deborah Rawson Library, they're having their annual meeting to discuss their budget. And and it's expected to be $180,799. As far as the budget goes for the Old Red Mill and the Conservation Fund, money will be put into those based on the what the ending tax rate will be, because those numbers were created out of so many mills on the tax rate. Remittances, again, because of it's really a pass-through that we are doing we're collecting for the fire department, and then we're going to remit to the fire department the $520,682, and the Deborah Rawson Library the $180,709. So the total remittances are going to be jumping from $634,000 to $701,471, plus it will be essentially a wash on because the Old Red Mill Fund will be collected, and then it will be put into a reserve fund, as well as the conservation funds. And that is where we are. And the general budget. Oh, I see Susan's got her hand up again.
Not sure who was first. It's either Bernie and Susan both. Susan, you want to go first this time?
Sure. So the Conservation Reserve Fund, it looked like, the actual FY22 is 34, so we were 401 to the good, which means that we collected tax revenue earmarked for that fund a little bit more than expected. So then the budget for this coming year is 33. Why would that be lower than a previous year? And
Well,
then
if you look at budget 22, it was also 33,733, because that was the guesstimated amount that was voted on. But
Right.
because the way it was set up on the warning, there was also essentially how many mills or that it would take to collect that money. That's going to change slightly every year because of the grand list changing.
But
So each
okay, right. Okay, so the grand list increases, so the revenue that will go to the Conservation Reserve Fund would technically increase. That's how I read the 401. Like, oh,
Yes.
we got more property tax
Yep.
revenue allocated to that. So then I question why the budget for 23 would be lower than the budget or even the actual for 22. But I especially question why the budget change is the entire amount.
Oh, you're going to see it.
One of the things that we just set a dollar amount in there to be approved by, essentially approved within the town report. But we don't know what the grand list is until actually June, 3 months later. So it's just an estimate based upon the prior year's actual rate and actual grand list. So we won't know, and in fact, we won't know what this actual amount is until June of this year.
And that's
So
why
you're-
people budget.
So the
budget
budget, but
fix the
budget
number.
budget FY24 is 0. But we could at least assume that it would be either the actual of last year or the budgeted amount for last year, because of the way it's done now, it creates such a big change, which is really not exactly the reality.
When this goes in the town report, the dollar amount will be about $35,292. And that'll be that amount for the collections and remittances.
Okay.
I estimated the old Red Mill amount as well, using the same assumptions on the grant list. And that will be 19,058 for both collections and remittances. So you can use those two dollar amounts as a comparison, and in the town report, we will have those numbers in there.
Okay, so in the town report, in the column budget FY 2024 for that conservation reserve fund, instead of being a blank dash, it'll be the actual number 35, whatever that you stated. Therefore, the budget change won't be a 33 to the negative. It'll be like a 1 or 2 grand to the positive. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
John, can you minimize that? So we can show what I'm.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the column called budget FY 2024. Yep, conservation reserve fund is a blank.
Because it's blank.
Erik, why don't we do this? Put online on that old Red Mill line, enter 19058.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you in the, well, okay, we can do this. And 292. And then go up above.
Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong one.
Yeah, and one was actually contingent upon the other, but you can just enter those into 19058.
Okay.
And yeah.
So when a remittance for the conservation reserve fund is really a transfer from the tax revenues into the reserve fund account?
That is correct.
Okay, got it. That's much better. That feels much better. Thank you very much. Now I totally understand it, but I'm sorry, I had a second question. And so my second question was, what did you guys decide to do about how to represent ARPA and ARPA funds and ARPA as a reserve fund in the budget? So we didn't talk about it in the capital fund conversation earlier, and so I was looking for it here.
Because right now, ARPA is just a reserve fund. It hasn't been
So-
used, and it will be used.
Right, so is it a reserve fund somewhere in the town report presentation?
John, if you, Erik, you're.
I'm driving.
You're driving. Go to the reserve fund yellow tab down below. Yeah. And so the ARPA funds. There we go. So you can't see the headings. I'll scroll up maybe a tad if you could. Yeah, there you go. So that's where the ARPA funds are. They're not in the operating budget of the town because there's really no activity. So, but we do show them as part of the reserve accounts.
Okay, so what, did you evenly distribute it across each year so that ultimately, if you scrolled all the way to the right, the fund balance would be the total number that it is?
That's right. What this is a roll forward of the activity from year to year. So you can see in 2022, and that probably should say actual, not budgeted at the top, but the 746,622 was received in 2022, and we haven't done anything with the funds at this point.
Gotcha. Okay. So in the future, if you decided to use that money, it would be like transfer in and transfer out the way all the other transfers in and transfers out are in the regular operating budget. When you go in from reserves and back to reserves, it would be just like that.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it wouldn't be part of the operating down. It would show up down below as reserve activity.
Right.
Yeah, that's the biggest change. Is the first part of the budget is all operating funds and how things, and then the remittances are other activities then.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for answering my questions.
And then I think Bernie had.
Yeah, Bernie had it. Go ahead, Bernie.
Back to the Essex budget for rescue. I know that you're looking to have them be more transparent with the numbers and to come back with you with some information. At some point in time, it may or may not be in time for this year's printing of the budget, but if it is, would it make sense and be capable of having a similar statement in the annual printed budget that the fire department publishes in the booklet? So that those transparencies would be passed on to the residents?
We had its own, do you mean on your tax bill where the fire
No,
department has
no.
its own?
No, I'm sorry, the annual town report has a page currently each year for the fire department, for example, reports their budget report, right? They have the 2 pages.
The problem is Essex Rescue doesn't do its budget. We don't see a budget.
We made an overture, to Essex Rescue to be involved in going forward, be involved in the management and perhaps the governance of Essex Rescue. Once that matter has been addressed, if we are sitting at the governance table or the management table, I would expect that we would be able to share information with the voters. But at this point, they are presenting us with a bill for excellent service, and we pay that bill. But the nature of the letter or inquiry to them was, we want to sit at the table with you so we can figure out how the operation works. And perhaps at that point, I would expect there'd be some update of Jericho voters as to the status of that.
Yeah, particularly because they recognize it and everybody else recognizes that this kind of increase is not sustainable for anybody.
But,
Right.
but we are signing up to be their partners, not with a short list of things we want to fix or do. We just, at this point, the first step is just sit at the table with them and learn more about their operation.
Right, understand. I heard you address that when you had the discussion a few meetings ago. So thank you for that. I guess just clarification in my own mind. Did you say that today they don't provide the budget for other towns, or they simply don't have one?
They don't provide it to the towns.
Okay, but they presumably create it for themselves. Okay.
Presumably they have one, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we aren't even aware of what the governance relationship is between Essex Rescue and Essex. We don't even know that yet, what their charter is, what their bylaws. That's what we would expect to learn over the next couple months.
Got it. Okay, that makes it clear. Thank you.
Are there any other budget questions?
Guessing Bernie's hand is the one that was just up.
Yeah. Well, I think it's it was good. And then, it was nice that Brian was here to be able to fill in those numbers.
Color commentator.
Yeah. That's right. And see, the good thing about this also shows when you provide an FAQ for the public at town meeting, because that's what we used to do. We had real meetings in person.
Way
back when, is that the public would have, a sheet that was FAQs.
Thank you,
like,
Carol.
that these big, good night, Carol. Good night. And so that, Bernie's question, things like that would be pulled up. And then for us, we'd have all our talking points.
Right.
More extensive than the FAQs. But,
So I have a
And one more
question
question if you had time.
unrelated to the budget.
oh, okay.
Is that the right time to ask?
We have any more discussion about the?
Bernie, do you have another budget related question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I asked this a couple of years ago. I'm not sure whether it ever happened or not, but was there any look into whether the budget annual report could be transmitted to people digitally?
What?
Digitally.
Stop mailing it.
Stop mailing it.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that the state law requires this.
I'm not
I think
asking,
it's- But I think it's
I'm
part
not
of the law. That you have to have this to the public, you have to have it in the hands of the public. But whether that, I don't know if they've addressed the digital issue or not. I mean, you could digitize it, but we'd still have to mail that one for a while, I would think.
well, I can tell you that I asked this in South Burlington. They saved quite a bit of money. They did print limited, at least when I was there. They reduced the amount they printed considerably, saved quite a few dollars. Of course, obviously bigger population, but they did print a small amount so that people could have them if they wanted a hard copy. Other than that, they sent it out digitally. I don't, if you can't answer now, that's fine. It's just something maybe to consider. There's 2 points to this. One is potential savings, but if that worked for the rest of the population, obviously. And then secondly, I find at least digitally, you can work with the spreadsheets, and I think it's a little easier to do some math on your own to look at the numbers, and it's also just easier to look at data, I think, than having a physical hard copy. But just something to think about.
Well, I think that's a personal thing, Bernie, because a lot of people do not like spreadsheets.
I don't think the board is unanimous on that one.
No,
Bernie, I have to
I
say,
like the hard copy, but that's me personally. But having it available digitally, that might be,
Yeah, that might be good, sure, but I mean, there's no reason you couldn't do it digitally so it's there on the website, for people who wanted to play with the streets, but you're right, I'm a Luddite on this one too.
But
I'm surprised there was mention made of all the trees that we would save too.
Well, again, I know it's a bigger population in South Burlington, but it was it was quite a few $1,000s that we're saving every single year. I mean, obviously that adds up over time, and it's not just a digital sheet, but it's the idea that, at least for me, a lot of people are moving towards not using hard copies of anything, right? I mean, my son doesn't ever pick up a hard copy book anymore. He says, if it's not on the computer, forget it. I'm not going to read it. I think, the younger generation,
That's true.
I think is moving in that direction. So I think it's sort of logical. I mean, a lot of us still like the hard copy, but I think there may be some taste out there for a digital copy. I got to believe a lot of people just grab this thing, it comes in the mail, and they throw it in the garbage. So,
Well, people who actually show up at town meeting show up with their town reports very often.
But
I
if you
agree.
post QR codes around town,
Oh, that's it.
just scan it with your phone, you have it right there.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's no reason I couldn't think about that. I mean, you're right. I mean, but people do the QR codes. Oh,
the people at the meeting, it makes sense that they would walk in there with a hard copy. I mean, they don't really have an option. It'd be kind of hard to work digitally, on your phone. But the people at home, anyway, just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a notion of, when you're accessing things as well, I can remember teaching kids in basic language back into the 80s. And if you did stuff in these different formats, including family pictures or whatever, they're unavailable. They're effectively unavailable now, unless you've got a computer that is able to translate Fortran or whatever the thing is that
That's
you need.
Fortran. Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, and I never worked in Fortran, but one of the things, when you got it in a hard copy, 15 years later, you have that material, whatever that is,
Right.
rather than searching for the floppy disk upstairs in my barn that's in the bottom of a box. And then I got to find something that reads a floppy disk, and there is no such thing anymore. So,
But if you're like me, you will lose that thing. Whereas if it's on my computer, I don't know where I put it on there, but all I need to do is type in the word Jericho budget or
Yeah,
Jericho town
that's
report,
true.
and I will find it if I'm good at where I save my stuff. So I see both sides of the argument.
Yeah. But Bernie's perfectly right. I mean, people who are 30s and 40s, they're going to fiddle around, but I don't see this laying around my son's house.
No.
Yeah, he's not doing that. I haven't seen a paper in his house in 3 years, and yet he reads every day, but he's not buying a paper.
Fire.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so that's it for budget. So
That's it for
Omar had a
budget.
question right after the budget thing.
When I became involved in the Jericho activities, I heard that they were going to combine the two libraries. What
That-
happened about that?
The two not really.
I think when the this is my 25-word
Yeah.
summary. When Deborah Rawson Library was built, one of the hopes for people in town was, please don't close the Jericho Central Library. And I think that was kind of a quid pro quo. We'll go along with this new library
Right.
if you let us keep our little library on the green. And I think
Exactly.
that's sort of what the understanding was. There is an increasing financial commitment, which, bears some examination perhaps. But I think the notion when that library was built was, okay, you can keep that library open for now.
So does that argument still hold, or is that we're committed by the agreement?
I can tell you because I've pushed this envelope a little bit.
Or did you?
And I've mentioned it a number of times, talked with some people in town because 5,000 people, 2 libraries. There are very few people who, I should say, I have yet to meet a person who does not accept the notion that we have 2 libraries. It's not an issue for most people.
So that everybody is happy with
That I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean, there are some people who say, why do we have 2 libraries?
Yeah,
Why
one
aren't
of
we
those
focusing on the one? But there are real committed people to keeping it in Jericho Center because it's part of the historic district. And if it's not used for a library, you've got to use the building to keep it alive. Because it is part of, it's a very important part of that district. It may become an issue down the road as it becomes more expensive to maintain. We don't know. I mean, I imagine we'll start hearing more things about that point, but right now, people seem to be okay.
so the duplication of books. Like,
There's not much to, I don't know, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the Jericho Center Library, but I don't know how much of the collections overlap.
But I do know that they do try to get together periodically and are, are aware of what each one is doing. But the children's programs are very important in both libraries and accommodate, kids in different parts of town. So I mean, that's a good thing.
It's
it is.
inexplicable to me, but that's where we are.
It is what it is.
Yes.
At the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
You never know. You just got to stay tuned, watch the space. It all depends. I mean, because there are people who, on both sides of the aisle on that one. All right, we're moving on to the select board updates.
So nothing jumped out in any of these comments. I didn't see any red flags or yellow flags from anybody's comments about this.
No, I just, there were some good ones that came up and those are good for the FAQs then.
Essex Rescue,
Yeah,
that came up,
yeah,
a couple of things like that. But
yeah.
So there was the additional budget or the additional item that we added. At the beginning.
At the end,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I just, you had said it would be after.
Oh,
budget
the amended
presentation, so-
Yeah.
agenda item.
yeah, oh, yes. Changes the, well, good, yeah, I haven't even said anything yet, we just finished the budget, thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I was just,
Very good, but we have a resolution that needs to be made.
John, do you have it in front of you? I was gonna look it up on
I
my
have the
phone.
language here, I can provide to Madam Chair.
Oh, actually, just read it and
Oh,
then,
okay.
and then
Like-
wait for Eric and say,
sure
I
if
so
I have the
moved.
authority.
If you,
I think I should probably abstain, but we'll hear what he says.
Well, no, actually, we have to be the ones
Yeah,
adding our names to it, but you don't need to abstain because you have to also vote saying that, yes, you're going to accept this responsibility.
okay.
Right, so, so the vote to appoint Erik Johnson as select board representative in all matters relating to purchase and acquisition of property including any future conveyance to the Jericho Community Development Corporation.
That's sufficient. That language is sufficient. You
That's
can-
what was, that
Okay,
that was the language that was suggested.
I make that motion.
Second,
Do you want me to second it?
Mhm.
All right, I'll second it.
all those in favor say aye,
Aye.
because what it is we're just appointing you to represent the town and.
Yep.
And that there's no conflict there, you
right.
just have to accept that responsibility.
Yep. Accepted.
How's this 8 to 10 hours a month?
It's
working
going
out?
real well, yeah. I think find that even on.
That's what I told him over the phone when he was interested.
Yeah. I'm gonna frame that. Just hang it on my walls.
Our 2 meetings a month are 8 to 10 hours. Let alone all the homework you gotta do
I know.
and all the ancillary committees that you're on and the liaison to this and that. And the other thing. We have, now we're into updates. You can't quite see because of the screen and they can't quite see either because of the screen. But as you can tell from the walls, we have our brand new art installation called Serenity. And it's going to be up through April and people can come and view it anytime that the town hall is open. Yeah, it's all in this room. There's on the main wall behind the screen and then this back hallway. And I didn't get my total count, but there are over 25 artists represented in this. You have things from quilting to underneath there is inspired by Bora Sashiko, Japanese stitching. We also have lots of photographs and we have pottery. I mean, it's really fun, all the different mediums that were used this time. And including our town planner is also represented on the walls.
Really? Where?
That corner, it looks like a mandala.
Oh,
But those are actually flower petals photographed and then the photograph is put on canvas.
oh, that's nice.
That mandate has made the rest of the admin staff on the second floor kind of quake in our boots. We feel like there may be some expectation for artistic contributions moving forward.
Well, a prior zoning administrator also participated. He was very active in the arts.
Oh, yeah.
So,
They'll absorb some of that through the
yeah.
space.
And the Jericho Energy Task Force met this week. We've established our winter lecture and movie schedule. And we have our first one on January 26th at 7 p.m. at the Deborah Rawson. And Gail Stevenson of Burn Right, Vermont is going to present about a better way to burn that releases less carbon into the air. And we've had struggled getting a partner to talk to her because the person who was did a parallel presentation of the last time this was done is no longer available. But they have found we certainly have material from Efficiency Vermont that I will provide, and we might have a lead on another one. But the biggie is February 21st, we're going to show the movie Kiss the Dirt. And it's a documentary and we'll have several presenters that are soil scientists talking about it because it's about regenerative agriculture. And then on March 23rd, we will have a presentation on climate change and in the Arctic focusing on the impact on polar bears, and it's by Kieran Mulvaney, who's from National Geographic.
Oh, nice.
Cool. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's fun. And then there's some other things that there's one from April that I'll talk about later that's going to be presented. It's going through the community center, but it's a nationally known speaker who's going to come in and talk about water issues.
Oh,
So that's what I got.
Anything else from the select board? I have a few updates to provide. So tomorrow night, as most of you are aware, we're having our first annual committee gathering and potluck dinner at the Jericho Community Center from 6 to 8. And getting great RSVP. We have, we're gonna be providing food. People are gonna bring desserts and side dishes, and Lucian Howe Brewing is gonna donate some beer.
Oh, how nice.
That's great. And yeah, again, I think it's gonna be a hopefully an annual way to bring all the committees, their expertise and energy together in one place. Acknowledge all the hard work that they put into their roles and get the year started off right.
Yeah, I only know two people from the energy task force, me and Phil. But both of us are already represented on other committees.
Right, there's a lot of cross representation. And there have been inquiries about bringing partners, and I didn't know how to I didn't know how to tastefully respond other than saying that mine will not be coming.
That's it.
Yeah, because Susan here and I talked.
Oh, yeah.
And she said to Bill that no plus ones. That, because it, based on just the number of people we have on committees.
Sure.
And since it's the first time it's done, it really should be the committees learning about the other committees and who's on them. After that, then you could do plus ones.
Yeah, I've also gotten little bits of feedback about it being on a Friday night, but my goal was really to try to do it on a night that wouldn't otherwise require
Sports and
one
kids
of our
running around.
committees giving up their meeting time. So we'll see how it goes. I'm encouraged. I think it's going to be worthwhile event. So Linda and I had a first meeting with the representatives from the firing range. We had a broad and sweeping discussion about potential collaborations, should there be emergency response needs. I think we mentioned it a little bit in our last meeting following the holiday storm cycle that we had and the extended power outage. I shared our local emergency management plan with them, and I'm going to suggest to the CCRPC or inquire, I should say, as to whether it would make sense to include them as partners in our plan moving forward. And we have a goal in the immediate future to try to bring together Matt Champlin and the Underhill Jericho Fire Department, Brad Holden and myself as representatives from towns of Jericho and Underhill, and the John Alberghini and Mike Weston and the new principal of the elementary school to talk about shelter options. They also suggested that we might do kind of an emergency scenario of sorts. They are required to do one annually, and intimated they may be willing to include us, which would be interesting. If you don't know, they did there was, I can't remember if it was a bomb scare or a gun concern report, but they took all of the high school students from MMU to the range for a number of hours last spring.
Oh, wow.
And so they're really interested in helping any way they can and sharing their capacity. We had some initial discussion about infrastructure plans they have moving forward, how we might collaborate. It was incredibly worthwhile. We also had our kickoff meeting with our municipal planning manager from CCRPC, Cy Sarapelli, regarding the sidewalk project in Riverside, which will be hopefully designed and implemented sometime by the end of 2026. At the outside, we're hoping we can accelerate the the schedule. We have an on-site, kind of an existing conditions, on-site review with him and Susan as representative of the planning commission, and Linda and I looking to Monday. And last but certainly not least, Linda has worked on printing, folding, having envelopes stuffed and mailed off for the survey.
Oh, the wastewater survey?
Yeah, exactly. So that was, came up with a completed draft a couple weeks back. Linda took the bull by the horns. We got, I can't remember how many hundred, but a number of them have already been put in the mail. So with that survey information as it comes back, it'll inform the upcoming dialogue that we're hoping to have around existing conditions and what neighbors would see as being beneficial in each of those centers being reviewed. And I think that's it from my vantage.
That wastewater survey is a great launching point.
Yep,
Yeah,
it is. It really is.
we,
So is there any other business?
none that I'm aware of.
Okay. So we need to approve the warrants, approve minutes of 1/5/23 and our joint minutes of 1/5/23 with Underhill. We'll start with the joint meeting. And it's you and I because Wayne was not there.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, it didn't show up.
And so
the end of the meeting.
that's my first thing to change on the minutes on line 8. It has Wayne Howe is there. He was not here for that part of the meeting. On the joint meeting at 5:30.
You get that one, John.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let the notes reflect that Wayne sheepishly arrived at 6:30.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, we're at the first
Joint
one.
meeting,
The joint meeting.
The joint meeting at 5:30. Gotcha.
and Wayne was not there.
Okay.
Uh,
The
he's,
old circle with the X through it and around Wayne's name.
yeah, that's right. This one's a dumb one. It's 116. They transferred to $4,433 in designated donations to reserve. Get rid of that too. Just they transferred $4,433 to reserve.
There you go.
157. I have. It says, from a sentence, it says they're asking for an increase in EMS supplies because they want to hire 3 new people. No, they're training 3 new people. These are all volunteers as the EMS people. They're not hiring.
That's for an increase.
That's a biggie. They're not hiring people. They want to outfit or train or whatever word, but these are all volunteers that are ready for the first responder. And report each. Oh, yeah. Erik Johnson moved to adjourn at 6:32. Catherine seconded, and the motion was passed 2-0 rather than 3-0.
I'm sorry, 232, Catherine,
Yeah, 242.
242. Erik Johnson,
And so you changed the 3 to the 2
Oh, right.
to reflect that Wayne was not there.
Good catch.
So if we have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Aye.
Now, how come Bob Stone's name isn't down here too?
What? Oh, see, this,
Because
but but Dan made the motion. He was on Zoom.
oh, right, it doesn't matter because this is just who made the motion, not who was, right,
Bob Stone abstained.
okay.
And Bob's. That
right.
was the motion. That was not the one to accept the budget. It was the one
To adjourn.
to adjourn. Yeah. The next one is January 5th, our regular meeting. Wayne Howe was there. And during the rush, I did. reading this. I think 286 is the only one I was looking at. It was, you know, there could have been more commas, but I'm not gonna be that bad. Make people look at commas.
That's an arcane science.
Well, I was trying, that's how I learned. I mean, it's
Sure.
all these, you have all these little punctuation marks all these years, you know?
Were you raised when in doubt, leave it out, or put them in all the time? Because
No, there's very specific ways,
Okay.
there's very specific ways to use the,
yes, I know the AP style book had all that stuff.
oh, yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
But you're right, nowadays, punctuation is irrelevant because it's all text anyway.
yeah, and if you text with too much punctuation, people know you're old, because you know only old people put punctuation in their texts.
I don't put it in.
Oh, good, that's
I
good
think
to
I
hear.
count as old.
Thank
Yep.
you.
So,
This I auto-correct anyway.
I have line 286. It says, the line before, it says, we have neglected infrastructure development, housing, and many communities needs. It should just be many community needs. So that's pretty straight. I mean, it's pretty simple, fix, but that's the only one I thought.
Okay, so with that, you're gonna make a motion, Eric, or?
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the, which one, January 5th.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Now we have, we're gonna sign the warrants and we're going to have an executive session.
Yes. And if I can, I realized I did not provide an update in regard to Essex Rescue, which is that
Oh, okay.
we received word that the newly formed city of Essex did not adopt, the select board chose not to adopt the letter that was put before all of our select boards. Reason being, as a newly established city, they being the select board, didn't feel that they had a long enough of a track record to hold Essex Rescue to the same account as outlined in the letter. So I don't know what, if anything, that means.
I love how they pretend they just formed out of existence. We have no idea. What's this place? We live in Essex.
Land, the ship is landed.
Yeah.
So I'll keep you updated on what that means, if anything, but I think the other municipalities, to my knowledge, are gonna be moving ahead with arranging a meeting.
Well, thank you for coming to the meeting.
Thanks, Omar.
yeah, thank you.
Omar,
And with that, I'll make a motion.
I need a response.
yes, I will give you a response. I have to be honest, I don't know where to get that machine.
Okay,
I have not had time. to
that's
do it.
that's a response.
Yeah.
I have a meeting tomorrow,
So
so
probably have to.
I'll take that forward.
rent one somewhere.
Well,
So-
doesn't the state police have one that they used to loan out, as well as the sheriff also had one that they had used here,
Okay.
Right,
right,
So
in the
sheriff
center
and
at one
state
time.
police,
State police and the sheriff's department, they do have those signs. Whether they're letting towns use them now or putting them in towns, we don't know.
I'll reach out.
That's all I need.
Excellent.
You're
Monday
working
soon
on it.
enough?
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
So
Yeah, that'll
that,
be interesting to see how the sheriff, you know, they are. I don't think they're for profit, but I can't help but think if you're contacting the sheriff and there's a. We'll give you $200 for the month or something, I'll bet you they would go for something
Really
like that.
coming now.
Oh, yeah.
is it?
Okay,
Did you say rain?
Oh, God.
rain?
No, I think he said snow.
Oh, no.
It's
Oh,
snow, yeah, it looks like snow.
Oh, I can see it.
And with that, I will make a motion to enter into executive session for the reasons of legal, prior disclosure of which would be detrimental to the parties involved.
You second?
oh, I second, I was already into the meeting. Thank you.
And for this particular session, I would request that if Brian has some time to stay, that you stay.
Include Brian, okay, that's good. And it's 8:06.
Request
Motion
granted.
passes. All in favor, aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good
Thank
night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.